And welcome back, everybody, once again to the PCS Summer Split. Here we have got two more games to close out our day. We're kicking things off, and it is going to be a litmus test for both squads, as is Frankie Sports taking on J-Team. But before we get into that, I do want to take a moment to thank our wonderful sponsor, CTBC Bank, always by our side, and always by yours as well. Now, Mr. Nightstar, J-Team may be undefeated, but Frankie Sports are not far behind. How do you like those boys who are bearing your name into battle?
They've come out of at the start a lot better than I think I would have expected, especially given the fact that they added a new top laner. Maybe it would have taken a little bit of time to try and figure how to play with YSKM, but so far it's been pretty good results, and it's been very nice to have a top laner for Frankie Esports that's able to hold his own during the lane phase, and I think that's why he's probably one of the most exciting players this split. We had ICU, of course, but he wasn't exactly on a very competitive team. I think YSKM is even more exciting because not only is he a player that's displayed that he's able to play these big carry champions in the top lane, he's also on a pretty competitive team as well.
Yeah, let's take a look at the full roster, including YSKM. We're going to see Holo in the jungle, Pretender in the mid, still on loan from PSG Talon, Eminem, and Rebirth is going to be starting today over carries. So we will see Rebirth's first shot on the Rift for this split. And I think there is a lot to like about this roster and about this team. Hey, first of all, they've got a proper real logo now, too. Everything's coming up, Frank.
Yeah, they've got the uniforms out, so hey, that's a big credit to them. They also have them all in same house, which is great. No doubt that has played a huge factor on how well they've been able to really start out the split, and hopefully they're able to maintain that momentum. Yes, they had a bit of a hiccup against CFO, which it felt like it was same old Frank. We're not going to pull the trigger. And all of a sudden the game's just over. But I think it'll certainly be more active game against J-Team, not only because CFO are also one of those teams that, like, if you don't poke them, they won't poke you. They won't poke back either. J-Team's definitely one to look to actively take fights.
Oh yeah, you're going to have to find the openers up against the J-Team side if you want to get the win for them. And I think this is going to be the big test for the side of Frankie Sports, if they are certainly the real deal up against one of our top squads, and typically a squad that has been more of a gatekeeper of the bottom half of the table, right? J-Team have always been able to do that. But speaking of, we now shift our focus from Hong Kong to Taipei, as J-Team will be taking the Rift. Driver in the top lane for today. Haven't seen him since the first game of the split. Joining Kongye, Uniboy, Lil V, and Enzo. They are going to be ready to play today to try to add another win to the column to make it a round 4.
Yeah, and this is a game that has a little bit more implications, right? In the first game, they played against DCG, so they had Driver in. And the next two, they played some not so competitive teams, and then they had Rock in. So I think they're trying to work in Rock, but for the time being, Driver's the one that's going to be taking on the more critical matches until they figure out how to get Rock fully integrated into the squad.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see the evolution of comparing the two top laners, and also YSKM on the opposite side, what he is going to be able to do for the team. But we will be comparing our junglers, because when you got it Kongye on one side, I think you always have to see how the opposition stacks up. Holo certainly going to be no slouch there, and has been a little more involved in getting his team's kills. This is actually looking pretty big for Holo. I mean, and this is a player who I think has had ups and downs throughout his PCS career, but he's coming in hot.
Yeah, so far, when you compare the stats, even though Frankie Sports have dropped a game, remember, they are 2-1, whereas J-Team are a perfect 3-0. The stats look pretty comparable all across the board. So this is a nice look for the side of Frankie Sports as they look to try and match up individually against J-Team. I think that's, for the most part, how J-Team win, right? They match you individually, and then they kind of grind things out. They aren't, if you're a worse off team, they will absolutely display that difference. And that's why when they play some of these lower teams, the games just end very, very quickly. So depending on how Frankie Sports, how long they drag the game out, maybe that's a measurement of how good this team really is.
Well, certainly keep an eye on the game clock, among other things, today. As we get into picks and bans, Gragas off the table immediately. That was a big driver champion last split, in all fairness, and we did see a pretty good AP build of it earlier today, as the Corki is banned away from the side of Pretender. Has been his most played champion across 3 games. He's had it twice, and I think Uniboy also no slouch on it, but Uniboy is a player who likes a particular type of champion. I feel like he's not going to be too worried about lacking a Corki.
Yeah, and we actually see Frankie Sports ban away the Lissandra, so perhaps prioritizing maybe a Ahri pick, whether it's in, I don't think it's going to be first pick, but perhaps in the second phase, or if both of the top tier junglers are left available, maybe they do go ahead lock in Ahri, and they just take away the other priority jungler on the second phase.
For J-Team, a little bit of respect.
Okay,
Frankie Sports' new top laner, as they have that Fiora removed, and yeah, Wukong banned, followed by the Zeri. No brainer there. But yeah, Wukong being banned blue side, not wanting to take it for a Holo. He actually hasn't played this champion. I wonder if this means that Holo doesn't feel great about playing the Wukong.
Yeah, perhaps not something up his wheelhouse, or they're just prioritizing this bottom lane. The
Eminem is a big carry.
Yeah, the Kalista has looked pretty good coming in from Eminem, but there's also still that Lucian available. And Lil V, I think, would fit more for him, although Aphelios, when you do pick the Kalista, it does enable the Aphelios to get picked up here, and that's just what they'll go with.
And the Renata takeaway, too. So, I mean, both, well, Carries obviously being a big Renata player. I don't know about Rebirth since we haven't seen him on it yet, but this is the pickup for Enzo as they round to the bot lane. Usually we see more prio on jungle early, but not with Frank and J-Team. Oh, we're going to see the Mummy combo yet again.
Ooh, okay. The Kalista and Mumu combination has been pulled out a fair amount of times. Has really, really good team fighting, right? Because not only do you have the bandage toss to close the gap, if that misses, you can always use the Kalista ultimate, or you can use the Kalista ultimate into the bandage toss to cover even more distance for that Amumu ultimate. Now that's looking like they're going to lock in the Victor, which is interesting because usually this is where you would go ahead and lock in your jungler. And it does mean we will see Viego get taken away in the second phase, unless if it does get locked in here, which, you know, it's Kongria, so makes a lot of sense as well. But a lot of things changing. Last week it was all about, hey, we pick our duo lane and then we pick our jungler. Everything's just super stock standard, but because of the dynamic of what blue side brings to the table, if you go ahead pick a solo lane, it feels like, I guess, red side immediately counter picks it.
Yeah, this is a little bit odd as teams just kind of reacting to each other and doing something very, very different. Trundle now banned away by the J-Team side. As the jungle pool should be hit here, as it is the big prio coming up next.
Yeah, it should be the Viego taken off the table. Has a lot of dive potential, synergy with the Silas. And of course, you just steal all the abilities of those champions afterwards.
Yeah, but the GP.
GP take it away, okay. Maybe looking for a blind pick Gnar then. Definitely a champion that could fit the bill. I would fully expect J-Team to pick Viego if left available, and then just save counter pick for Driver up in this top side, because that would prevent YSCam from going wild. But if the Viego pick does get banned away, then maybe, okay, it's actually going to be an ARP ban. So they're trying to force a volatile matchup, but does J-Team actually go ahead and opt into a blind pick top laner? Because it just feels like you just pick jungle here and make sure Driver doesn't get bodied in lane by giving him counter pick.
Yeah, I think that is the no-brainer. I mean, it's surprising that Viego made it through to this rotation, but it does get picked up by Kongi. Okay. This has been a very, very weird pick and ban, Nightstar.
Yeah, and well, I mean, the Lee Sin kind of makes sense. We've seen this matchup, of course, plenty of times in the previous split. And when you have a couple of junglers being taken off the table, it also makes a lot of sense. You're not going to go for something like a Diana because you already have the Mumu and you already have a Victor. So,
ooh, but the switch up, we got the Poppy lock. All right,
Poppy
talk to me about this.
Works. Poppy definitely also works out a decent amount here. Ooh. But we are hovering some interesting picks here for our last one.
And YSCam could play any of these, I feel like.
Yeah. He's just
come on, that'll be boring. Okay. Gwen would be boring here.
Gwen, very strong blind pick here.
Ah, there we go. There we go, YSCam.
Okay, there we go.
Jax. We've seen this before.
Jax comes out, and some of the champions that you would like to pick, of course, he's great into tanks because tanks don't really bully him out, allow him to scale up. Also doesn't threaten him when he's on the side lane. We know it counters Gwen in the 1v1, which we already saw come out from ICU when he opted. He's played both sides of the matchup, and Jax won very, very handily in both of those instances.
Interesting.
But the one big thing of Gwen is that she does team fight better than Jax. So if top lane is, somewhat even, and it's not super lopsided, then Gwen will have more impact early on in these team fights. So that's what we need to see here from this Gwen pick. But for the side of Frank Esports, the Poppy pick brings a lot of early game and a lot of utility. When you look at this front line, Poppy and Mumu is pretty punishing if they get on top of you. Lots of CC and lots of lockdown. So I don't hate this approach because you have some pretty strong carries in the Jax, in the Victor, and the Kalista to a certain degree.
Poppy, pretty punishing. That's going to be one heck of a vocal warm-up there. Nightstar, this is, I feel like this is Frank Esports throwing down the gauntlet a little bit and putting a lot of trust in their rookie top lane. You talked about YSCam being one of the most exciting prospects in the league this split, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. Definitely saying, I don't care what you pick into me, the Jax is going to be able to wreck your day. So we'll see if it works out, if Frank Esports can find their third win here with this lineup. It is honestly just a pinball machine of bops and bashes and a little bit of a laser thrown in there for fun. But for the J-Team side, it's a pretty respectable amount of damage and some solid counter-engage, good team fighting. Who do you like? I mean, nameplate's off because I feel like this is so hard to call.
Yeah, it is really, really hard to call. But overall, I feel like Frank Esports' composition does have a little bit more to offer. You've got the CC, right? That's kind of the one thing that J-Team don't quite have. They're going to be heavily reliant on Gravitum coming in from Aphelios or the ultimate coming in from Renata. It has to be a big hostile takeover almost every single time.
We have seen some big ones, and they are very game-changing, but you have to keep in mind, on the opposite side, there is that Curse of the Sad Mummy. Lock people up for the big plays. Team fighting, though, J-Team definitely seem to be more focused on that. When you have a Jax in this, I feel like you kind of put yourself into that 4-1 a lot more, even though Jax has been able to turn the tables on some fights.
Yeah, and when it comes to the early game, again, more so eyes onto this Poppy pick. She needs to find some things early on to get things rolling, but there are a lot of lanes to gank, though, which is the nice part. You don't pick Poppy when you have losing lanes. That is the worst situation. You pick Poppy to snowball off of lanes that can already snowball pretty hard themselves, and that's exactly the case we have here in this game, because if you get Jax a couple kills, he just runs out of control. And in this bot lane, like Kalista, we know how Kalista can snowball very hard. And the Mumu pick, of course, melee support. If he gets ahead, he can just kind of jump in nonstop.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on that Poppy of Holos. It's actually his first Poppy in his career as a jungler, if you can believe it. Had to scroll back through a couple years worth of stats just to check that one out. And I don't believe he's played this champion before. So, first time for everything.
Yeah, and YSCam, he has been the name of the week number 1, besides, of course, Gory. So all eyes on him to see how well he does. This is a much different team this time around that he's playing up against. He did have a game against Rest that he wasn't able to find a whole lot of impact, but I think that was more so, you know, CFO. Rest is one of those top laners that's very hard to take advantage of.
Yeah, I think Rest is not immune to making mistakes, right? But it's a little bit different and not as high impact. I think Driver, you know, opting into the Gwen matchup that we have seen lose in the 1v1. Well, I do feel like YSCam could have a big opening here, and let's see if Frank Esports can work with it. They do get a bit of a roam invade into blue. I don't think... Yeah, there we go. Now they see Kongye, who is going to be zoned off for just a second, just a delay. Not really doing much else as they've already pushed the wave. It does give Hollow information, though.
Yeah, it also means that he can just instantly bop that crab and turn his attention towards top crab, where he does have top lane priority. So this is a great start for the Poppy. Also a great start for the Jax, because you know that you're not under threat. You can easily crash this wave up into the top side, get your recall off, walk all the way back, and you're just in a really nice spot. So Frank Esports, actually, Hollow is going to go towards the Krugs instead of that top crab, because he does want to be here in the event that he sees the Viego try and force the gank bot lane.
Yeah. Doesn't need to, as Kongye will be backing off, but, you know, feels good for Frank to kick things off. Building the small advantages. Pretender actually finding some early damage on Uniboy. I think Pretender's somebody that we were really excited about coming into Spring Split, but we haven't talked about him much in summer. And
it's been YSKM and Eminem. That's why.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like he's not excited compared to everybody else on the team, but that doesn't mean he's not excited. There's a lot to like on this Frank lineup.
Yeah, and one of the issues has been in that CFO game, he did get kind of bodied in lane. So I do like the fact that they drafted a strong laning champion for him, because it hasn't been an issue for him in team fights or finding angles to start team fights. It's been the other things. And now YSKM, he knows this matchup, and he knows that Gwen just doesn't ever win. So again, like Driver, he probably also picked this matchup because he knows as well, but he wants to have a little bit more team fight impact. But as it stands, 5 minutes into the game, there's no team fights happening yet.
No, and this Jax is already starting to get a very, very healthy lead. Driver teleports back to lane, obviously, you know, has the timer on YSKM there, but still finding himself a little behind. And this is honestly, if you're the Jax player in the situation, it feels really, really good. And that's going to be at least one losing lane. The question is, what else can he get done on the map? I think Kongye, pressure's going to be on him a little bit once 6 dings to try and make something happen.
Yeah. Here. And how does Poppy get a double crab? That is my question, right? Because Kongye, he could have just gone for that top crab, but with his lanes as is, he just couldn't actually make his way over. And Hollow actually, on this Poppy, which isn't known for speed clearing, snags himself a double crab. So that feels really, really nice, because usually the Poppy has to get really far ahead through gank pressure. But so far, you know, still behind in the XP, sure, but keeping up in the gold is really, really nice.
Yeah, and they've actually managed to get a catch onto Enzo. It's not going to take very, very long, though, as Hollow gets rooted down to the ground, denied for just a second by Lil V. Good gun swap. All the same. Everywhere on the map, things are at the very least even for Frank Esports. Kongye. Oh, no, there's a flash forward. They find another stun. Enzo taken low and taken to the wall. Not down for first blood yet. There they go. The bailout is not enough as Rebirth chased down by Kongye.
And they turn. That's the question.
Absorbs his essence, and it's become a 2v2, and they will back away. So supports traded on the map. Flashes burnt on both sides as well. Excuse me, Ignite for Flash, I should say.
Yeah, but supports
and a flash by Rebirth
do die, and it's both junglers to get the kills as well. So I would say the trade is a little bit more in favor for J-Team because of where that gold went, but in the early game Poppy, definitely nothing to scoff at. And Frank Esports right now, 400 gold lead. And while this Callista isn't going to have a good time into the Phileas later on into the game, still provides a lot of utility, and by the time that, you know, you would say the Callista's impact sort of fades, the Jax is going to be on buff. So we get to see the replay, a lot of damage poured into Enzo, and they just really try and draw and bait this fight, but Enzo's just way too low. That's why when he gets caught out here, yes, he's buying time with his bailout, but he still ends up dying because they just aren't able to return damage fast enough.
Ooh, and Eminem just lines up the shot perfectly to get that extra spear in there. As Rebirth does die through it all, so, you know, that's, as you mentioned, a little back for Kongye. But really, just so much value out of the bandage toss. I suppose that's one way to answer the handshake. As Rebirth goes a roaming into mid lane right now.
Yeah, just making sure he gets a comfortable back here, reset the wave, and now turn their attention over to this dragon. So we'll see if one of these teams want to force a dragon take here. I think it would be a little bit optimistic. But Hollow is level 6, so he now has access to the hammer.
Oh yeah, he can just knock somebody right out as he flashes over. That was a Hex Flash. Man, that's an interesting bit of tech.
Going for the Ultra Aggression. Rebirth and Kongre. Bit of a staring contest, even though they don't necessarily know that they're staring at each other. But yeah, so this Poppy pick will be able to give value later on too, because you think the one big target here is, oh man, what if we overcommit and then the Phileas just gets to destroy us? Well, you can just knock him out.
Collapse on the flank. They get the double stun right now. Kongye trying to get the collapse on, but this is 3v3, 3v4, I should say, and they're pretty happy about that one, even through the bailout. Enzo goes down. Talk about optimism. J-Team didn't wait until Uniboy was with them to start the fight.
Well, actually, they did. But the problem was Hollow just bopped them out with the Justice Hammer. Knocked them away.
Excuse me. Sorry, I blinked and missed it. My bad, Nightstar. But yeah, that's the numbers. You gotta be careful with.
Yeah, exactly. He shows up and he's gone. And
you gotta reset at that point.
Uniboy just doesn't even get a say at that point. So he's just like, well, I tried, guys. And we're gonna see the replay. And it's just off screen, right? He just shows into the screen and he's gone. Bye-bye.
Yep.
And afterwards, like, there's just nothing left. Like, you need the initiation power coming in from a Silas. Yes, Lil V has a lot of chakrams going on, but he's got no front line to stand in front of him to do damage.
Speaking of front line, Enzo trying to absorb. Curse the Sad Mummy. That is going to be another Renata taking the picture. Away, actually. That's the bailout. They didn't pull the red stacks out. Enzo gets the kill onto Eminem, and oh boy, do not play with your food too long. It might bite back.
Oh, I think it's just Frank Eastwards overstaying there. They didn't get the reset. I assume they didn't get the reset because of how low their mana bars are. That fight wasn't as clean as they would have liked. But we should just have kind of a return to, all right, everyone gets their reset, everyone gets their items, and now it's time to Dragon Dance again. Yeah, we see Rebirth has a lot of mana, Eminem does not. So trade happens, Rebirth goes back in, knowing Hollow's there. And this is a lot of damage coming through, but he Ren's there, so he doesn't have the Ren for Enzo. And even though he has a lot of damage, no cooldown, and probably might have also been a mana issue as well. So it could have been twofold for that brief instance. But because we didn't get to see the rend earlier, it does look a little bit funky.
Yeah, there we go. So Eminem just slightly off, and Enzo able to heal up a little bit through all of that on the refillable. Does find a kill back for himself on the Renata, and now we're right back to the Dragon. It's going to get secured.
Does have Callisto
and now
ultimate.
The chase is on. Flash out from Rebirth. Ooh.
Yeah, maybe not close enough to for Eminem to ult him out, or maybe they just wanted to hold on to it because if you look at the summoners, he has his Hex Flash, so he's still able to make some plays when it comes to the lane phase. And since we're still kind of stuck in the lane phase, it's almost actually better for him to lose the flash there, right? Because you can just keep making it. YSKM, he gets himself a blue buff. Yes, it hasn't been an impressive lane, that we saw when he played this matchup against ICU, but we are going to slowly see him just accrue larger and larger advantages.
Yeah, he's got the play of the Rune King on that back as well, so comes in a lane, that blue buff. Going to be able to zone Driver away for the time being. We are starting to see the Mythics come through. Kongye gets the Divine Sunderer for himself, as Holo starts up in full vision on this Rift Herald.
But he has a support.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, even if you see it, you can't necessarily stop it. Good support system, Frank Esports. Now Kongye going to try to contest, or at least sniff for this. They've got Driver as well. We could be in for a big old objective fight.
Yeah, but it'd be 45 right now.
And the Curse of the Sad Mummy looking to delete Uniboy off the map. He flashes away. That's a hostile takeover, and Driver's in the mix now. Gwen might be immune, but not when people are right in her face. It's going to be Reaper going down as the first casualty. Driver will finally fall. YSKM follows as well. That's a double kill. Lil V getting 2 right off the bat, and Kongye going in for the Heartbreaker to take down Eminem, and that's 3 quick kills in exchange for Driver. Will Pretender be able to find an answer there? I don't think so. Lil V, he can't hop that wall, but it doesn't matter.
Bold pathing choice coming in from Lil V. And if he goes down, maybe the side of Frank Esports are able to stop that Rift Herald, but Rift Herald still goes into... Oh, it actually went into the hands of Hollow. Wait a second. I didn't notice it.
Yeah, let's take a look at how the fight... I think he finished it off in the chaos, but...
Yeah, I think he just ignored.
This was funky.
A little bit interesting. We see the engage onto Uniboy, but Uniboy...
So close.
You know, that's the durability patch difference right there. And then Rebirth goes in. He tries to go and make a follow-up play, but that's always the danger of trying to re-engage when you're low HP against a Viego composition, because the Viego gets that reset and off to the races he goes.
And I think critically, right, like one of the reasons we see that Gwen being prioritied for J-Team, even in a losing 1v1, is just right there. You force everyone to get right up close and personal to deal damage because Gwen is immune at a distance. So everybody gets close. They have to invest pretty heavily into taking down Driver, and then it kind of just lines up the shot. Uniboy getting away is also kind of the icing on the cake for J-Team. Yeah, they lose out on the Herald, but they get a really good turn on the fight. They get a decent bit of gold advantage, and look where it falls. It's in the Viego's pocket. It's into the Aphelios pocket that buys the Gale Force now, so all of a sudden you're ahead on 2 of your most valuable carries.
Yeah. However, at the same time, for Frank Esports, it is 2 kills onto the Victor, so he is accelerated in that regard. Is going to be able to get those upgrades just a little bit faster, and the Victor is the one carry that they can't really touch on the side of J-Team, so that will be problematic for them to deal with. It's just a matter of making sure that they are able to land some CC, but that's the other issue. They don't have like reliable CC to land onto a target like a Victor if he wants to play safe. Well, no one's going to force him out of position.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the reasons why Pretender opts for this champion, right? And I think we've seen it from him a decent bit in this spring split. If I remember correctly, like this was one of the champions that had a fairly high success rate. Maybe not. I think he only had like maybe 1 win on it, but doesn't matter. It's been up pretty well right now, and I think for Frank Esports, despite the gold deficit, there are things we like to see maybe just a couple inches away from getting those kills, a little bit of misplays. We don't normally see Eminem with a negative score, but like both those plays kind of inches away from becoming positive, you know?
Yeah. Very, very small margins. And if they were able to get that Silas, also would have made a difference. It would have evened out the gold, and they might have considered trying to return on that fight and get more out of it. But like, whoa, doesn't change the fact that YSKM is just a behemoth.
Right? He's doing Jax things at this point. Yeah, he's got
like Driver has the Riftbreaker now completed, also has the steel cap boots. But because you go for steel caps, it means that there's a faster spike coming in from the Jax, being able to snag that Blade of Rune King. And because they got the first tower, or the first dragon, they don't have to invest themselves onto the second one. So they just turn their attention on trying to continue to snowball YSKM.
And YSKM is just focusing the tower right now. It turns into a 2v2 with Shelly in the mix, and you're out of there.
That's a home run.
Yep. At least a double. Watching Poppy is fun. I miss that, man.
Poppy's definitely
That's a great champion.
Incredibly fun. Definitely a remake that felt good.
Yes. Her old ult was how do I put this? Scuffed?
It was fun in a different way.
I mean, if your name was like Vizichachi or something, that was back in the day that I was casting him in LEC.
Well, it was fun for the Poppy player, maybe not for whoever she ulted.
Yes, that's very true.
It's
kind of like playing against the Tryndamere.
Exactly. But so
that's
far, like, all things considered, Pyra, like, it's only a 500 gold difference.
No, this is good for Frank. Like,
yeah,
this
we
does
talked
not
about
feel bad.
We talked about coming into this game. If J-Team just absolutely body Frank Esports, that's kind of a litmus test of saying, like, Frank Esports are good, but not an upper team, because J-Team body everyone that's not an upper team. So, given that they have dragged this out, you know, relatively quiet game, bodes well. Very well.
Oh yeah, and the fact that they have late game in many parts in their favor, right? I mean, like, yes, the bottom lane is not going to be nearly as effective. Eminem, who has traditionally been one of the big carries for this team, is not only behind, but isn't going to be favored up against the Aphelios the late game. But you have a Victor and you have a Jax. Those are two extremely difficult to deal with champions at the late stages of the game. I think Holo is making this Poppy work for him well in the first time. And yeah, I think Frank have clearly latched onto a win condition that's going to involve the upper half of the map, and that's okay. For J-Team, you know, they're looking to try and out team fight. They're looking to use Lil V to their advantage. They're looking to have Driver get in the mix when YSCam can't follow through as well. But if Frank Esports play well around the map, playing 4-1 is not easy, but you can deny a lot, as Holo denies Kongye the jump in, but this is going to be the start of the Rift Herald. Let's see how Frank Esports reacts.
Those look like they're kind of fishing around here, but I don't think they'll look to contest because of their breakpoints, although now they're making a late contest.
Ah, there's the windup. Herald's going to reset. This is just the pullback for J-Team. So, I mean, really not a whole lot burned. And again, you just deny Kongye the jump in multiple times. Junior Boy steals away the Curse of the Sun Mummy. That's pretty impactful.
Yeah, everyone bit on the edge of their seats for that moment. And now the team fight feels all the more real, because one of the other changes for Poppy is that when you hold onto the ultimate, it will reset. Although now we hit 20 minutes, so the Rift Herald fight isn't going to be there anymore. It's going to be a Baron fight. YSCam just doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Yeah. No, he doesn't.
Oh my god, look at how much damage.
Needlemark from Driver, but here comes Holo around the side. And they're just going to be able to pinball down. That's a lot of damage being dealt, but even with the going golden on the stopwatch, it's not going to matter. That's going to be the kill.
Yeah, Holo plays that perfectly, where he tanks it up, makes sure that YSCam can go ahead and get the final blow without coming under threat of dying to tower. So that's YSCam on the board on the Jax, and the moment that happens, that's when things get pretty crazy. It's a 2k gold difference in the top laners right there. And even though the 80 carry, there is a bit of a gap, a BF sword gap. A BF sword gap isn't the same as a 2k gold gap, because that's still plus 700 difference. And Pretender holding his own against Uniboy does opt into the Morello Nomcom, which is definitely an interesting purchase. I don't think it's bad to get Grievous Wounds, but of course Grievous Wounds did get nerfed. So I don't know about upgrading the Grievous Wounds. So we'll see. As again, like, he's one of the big win conditions. You really need the damage, but now maybe a collapse onto YSKM, but I almost feel like he probably 1v2.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I don't know if you're feeling that one, Kongye. Really good job by Frank Esports. They were able to keep a lot of waves clear. It opens up opportunities for them to make moves like this to try and collapse around the map. Something you can do with the Victor and a Jax. YSCam. He gets jumped on right now, and he's going to buy a little bit of time with the stopwatch of his own, as he does YOLO a little bit into this one, and the Glass ultimate is going to keep this team
Wise
going
Cam?
against itself as the shutdown comes in. Finally, they run out of steam on the Frank
Oh,
Esports side. And this is Kongye with the pop-off. They got one, they got two. They're going to get even more from this one as everyone but Pretender gets cleaned up. And yeah, he hits him with the what-face crab. I don't think he even really realized what just happened.
Oh, lordy. Oh, Pretender.
This is huge.
1v5.
He's trying, but that still might be barren. As he gets some power siphoning on, Kongye could get taken off the map here, but he goes too deep. He runs the risk of being invaded. Driver is going to take this dragon, but yeah, solo Pretender managed to stop the take. Pretender takes it away. Are you kidding me?
He stops the Baron and he takes away the dragon. He might end up dying. But
I don't know
who
about that.
cares? Who cares? In fact, he gets more. He forces the teleport. Like, this is as 1v9 as it got right there in the last 30 seconds.
Just saved that play. YSKM, it looks like he's baiting the team. They're not in for it. Yeah, he fully recommits to lifestyle. Just sends it entirely. And he tries to get away at the last second. Shut down. Things get really bad here for Frank Esports. And
because they have Jax.
Massively.
Now you have a Jax stun. He jumps in, has the Jax.
But Pretender,
gets a multi-man
we don't even get to watch what he just does. All right,
my God.
I can't believe that.
All right,
this is
now
1v3.
it's time.
Yeah, all right. Silenced on 1v3. I don't think he's going to be able to last very long. But what are Frank going to get for it? They're on the Baron right now. And the Pilo.
Yeah, not quite enough time. And the key thing is they don't know that the Gwen used teleport. So in their minds, they're thinking the Gwen is going to just TP in and then it's a 3v4. Yes, we have a numbers advantage, but things can go south still. So I think that's the reason why they opted to pull off of it, because there just wasn't enough damage thrown down.
Yeah, so it feels like Frank are falling a little bit into their gun-shy habits here. I mean, you know, lack of information is one thing, but, you know, they don't commit to the Baron. I was wondering if maybe YSKM is just, like, you know, trying to bait out the three-man dive, but they don't get anything for it. And it seems like JT have found a way to stop the side lanes from pushing in on them. And we get back to a bit of a reset here. It's a 3,000 gold advantage for J-Team at 25 minutes on the board. Frank trying to wrestle control back of the Baron pit, but it is J-Team that have priority.
Yeah, and the thing is, they can't do much right now because of the fact that YSKM is shoving out that bottom wave. So he has teleport, yes, but you don't want to overforce the issue where you take a fight and then your top laner or your solo laner down in the bot lane has to teleport in when there's so many minions crashing into that bottom tower. So this is more of a min-max play coming in from Frank Esports. And at the very least, we are seeing YSKM really push the limits, which is what we didn't get to see from Kurt. So that is one small positive. And the other thing is, of course, J-Team not that far up when it comes to gold. It is still only a 2,500 gold lead, which at 25 or 26 minutes into the game is not all that much.
No, and Frank have the Dragon stack as well. I mean, yeah, it was cut down a bit by J-Team taking away the Hex tech, but, you know, as this game goes, we talked about scaling in the top half of the map. That is going to be pretty favorable for Frank, and Lilvi is going to have to do so much heavy lifting. But here's the thing, though, like, Kongye has found a couple of resets. Like, this is what he does. So the Viego is also going to be a problem. I kind of feel like we could be in for a very explosive final fight.
Yeah, definitely should be. And maybe the thing is, maybe it doesn't even come in that next dragon because there's no soul being threatened at that point, right? So there's potential for J-Team to just say, we like our hyper carry more. We think that Phileas is just going to outperform the Kalista, and as long as we keep the Jax off of him, we're fine. Maybe that's the approach that they're going to take. Especially after, well, actually after the IE, maybe you think differently. So IE now completed onto Phileas, but
yeah, that changes things.
There's no sustain. There is no sustain on this champion.
Yeah, that is a little bit of worry, but Lil V has done a really good job of positioning. I think traditionally has been very, very good at that. So worth keeping in mind that they are trusting to their AD carry's position. J-Team having the inside track here. This is going to be
actually starting it out.
The start of the Baron. Let's see if they're able to full commit to this one. No, it's a back away.
Yeah, but now there's only 15 seconds until the Dragon. So if they don't try and force some sort of Baron for Dragon trade, they will just lose out onto the Dragon. And they are getting forced off of this. That I think that YSKM's just going to go ahead, secure it. He still has teleport, so he can just TP into this still.
Yeah, there's the opportunity with the Dragon being taken away, even if the Jax isn't as big.
Oh, Uniboy coming in on flank. He's spotted.
And so that is a really big ultimate coming out of the Renata Glass. And now Eminem going to try to reposition.
No reset yet.
By a little bit of time on that one as they throw Reaper in. Everyone's popping stopwatches.
YSKM
wants time, but it's YSKM that's coming up with it as he zones Lil V away. Damage report, though. Frank Esports have not lost anybody just yet. And J-Team, no top, no support, and wouldn't you know it, even though Kanye takes out Rebirth, I think he is not long for the Rift as he runs smack dab into YSKM. It's Baron time for Frank.
Let's go, Pyra! Now they're going to turn for the Baron.
Go.
And for the side of J-Team, they still have 2 members up. It is the 2 big carries, but Lil V has to do so much. He has to get a huge ultimate.
He really does not
whipped.
find what he was looking for, and Uniboy gets shut down. YSKM just barely stays alive as well. Frank Esports are doing it.
Oh my god. This would be the biggest win for Frank Esports. Yes, they found, I believe they found an upset against DCG in the spring split, but I mean, let's be real here. As many upsets as they would find, we still weren't going to put them as a top 4 contender, but this would definitely change things. This definitely changes things here as we get to see how it plays out. Driver on the side, zoned out by Pretender, so even though Uniboy gets a great flank, gets into the fight, locks down Eminem, Driver isn't able to actually follow up. And then
positions on the Callista so well.
Like teleport comes in, YSKM, Lil V, very, very far from the fight. I would assume that Hollow probably bopped him out with that ultimate, but that's like 90% of your damage gone. So you can't get resets without that Aphelios helping out because the Silas just doesn't have that punch to get people low enough. And I mean, it's a nice play for Konya to get what he could, but ultimately results in him dying and the Baron going over to Frank Eastwood.
Yeah, it just results in a higher bounty for YSKM to collect. And we're right back into it. Everybody looking at each other just yet. No fight over Dragon as it's still going to be 2.5 minutes away. 30 minutes on the clock. This game could really end at any time if J-Team take a false step and look at YSKM.
Bot lane.
Yeah. Oh boy. I wanted to be like, okay, are we going to have a breather in this game? But no, it's kind of just like the tempo was just cranked. And look at that. YSKM on level 17, 2 ahead of anybody else on J-Team.
He's just so far ahead in EXP. And the issue is he has level 3 ult. That makes him so very tanky. So when you see him jump onto a target like Lil V, he's got freaking Collector. He doesn't have to shred. No. How is he going to kill this Jax?
I mean, we just saw the Moonlight Vigil drop, and it tickled everybody.
Pretender's
but here's the flank.
Oh,
that's going to be the hostile takeover. They do get a shutdown. That's pretty big gold. Can they turn it around, though, on the Frank side? Here comes Uniboy. They've just got the full collapse, and Frank got caught snoozing.
Yeah. Pretender definitely overplayed his hand in that instance. Gets stuck in that choke point, and that's just free pickings for the Renata. So Enzo lands a beautiful ultimate hostile takeover, but part of that is the fact that they're kind of stuck in a poor position, and this could just end very similar to the PSG game where they make one mistake and the game's over.
It's starting to look that way right now. There's still about 15 seconds until just about anybody comes back up. Rebirth will be a little bit faster, but this is going to be it. Frank, they tried, but they made one crucial mistake. Getting caught out, J-Team immediately turn. They cut him down to size, and it's 32 minutes. J-Team going to take the victory.
Oh man, they definitely made a run for it, but Pretender gets caught at the very end, and this is what is so punishing about the current meta, is that you find the poor team fight, you get caught out after 30 minutes, the game is just over. So all the good things that they did find in that game still carries over, but J-Team, more credit to them for being able to find the last play to end the game.
Oh yeah, that's what you call abrupt, but that is how it goes.
Experience gap
in this meta, and an experience gap is right there. And I think, yeah, honestly, even with the win, you can't be happy that you were falling behind for so long. You opted in into this matchup, and I think YSKM, you're seeing why Jax needs to be respected as he was dishing out so much damage, but it didn't matter. At the end of the day, the win still carries over for J-Team, who remain undefeated, but the foundations, I think, are a bit shooketh, Nightstar. That was almost a loss.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like 90% of the way there, right? Once you secure the Baron, it feels like it should just be beginning of the end, because the Poppy pick is so instrumental in A, you knock out the Viego, or B, you knock out the Philios. And if you knock one of those two targets out, then there's really not a lot of team fight left for the side of J-Team. And we saw that in many of the fights. Even the first one, kicking out the Sylas at the start of it prevents him from having any sort of impact. And I love the Poppy pick being taken up here. Unfortunately, they weren't able to take it over the line, and credit goes to J-Team. And when it comes to MVP, I mean, like, Kongre is certainly a standout player, but the game win doesn't come unless if Enzo hits that ultimate that catches out Pretender. So
I agree with you. That's an Enzo MVP for me. Like that, like the fights that they actually were able to find advantages, it was all off the back of really, really good counter engages coming from the hostile takeover. And also, like, I mean, Enzo managed to turn a few things around. Like, you could argue some mistakes in lane from M&M, but like, what a great turnaround to limp away and then manage to get that handshake to set up a play for the AD carry. And I think J-Team, they can be happy about, like, you know, the micro. I think they fell behind across the map. They let themselves get pushed around a lot more than would have been expected. And despite the loss, Frank Esports looked very, very good overall in this game. And I think they can be very happy. It sucks not to get the win, but I think they can be very happy with what their form is like right now, because at 2-2, they still look terrifying.
Yeah, this is the team that not even the top teams really want to play, because you just don't know what YSKM can do to your top laner. Maybe he hasn't even shown the full depth of his champ pool, because the Fiora Jax, like, I'm pretty sure these are going to be like either perma-banned or you're just perma-expecting them.
And that opens up other opportunities around the map, right? I mean, I think Pretender's Victor, that was an incredible hero play. If they had won the game, I would have said that would have been probably an MVP earn for Pretender. I think he has absolutely stepped up in this split so far. Yeah, Holo played well around the map. Like, it's one of those games where you're like, oh man, that looked great, but then you lost a fight, and at 32 minutes you can't do that in this particular 12.11 meta. So yeah, it's rough to go home empty-handed for the side of Frank Esports today. But you got like 90% of the way there. You just need to get it over the line. You can tighten up the play. Maybe fix a few of the lingering doubts about your aggression. I think they could have turned for Baron earlier in that one, and it would have actually worked out, but they needed information. They needed to know that Gwen wasn't there. Overall, there's a lot to like about this Frank Esports roster, and I think they're ramping up. For J-Team, I think they dodged a bullet. Big time.
Absolutely. This definitely should have been them dropping or making or having to have some sort of miracle team fight, but they didn't have to even team fight. They just got a pick for free, and it was a snowball right afterwards. But for Frank Esports, like, the pieces are there, and they did most of the hard work. But this is why I love this meta, though, right now, because
the game just coin flips at the end.
The team fights just, each fight matters more, whereas before we had so many team fights, it felt like we just keep fighting. It doesn't matter. If we lose this team fight, we just go, but here it's like each fight is so critical.
And you could see where they all turned. I mean, I do want to give credit where it's due for J-Team, is they kept it very competitive despite looking like they were going to lose out in the scaling game. I think opting into a losing matchup and still having Gwen put out that much damage is very, very respectable for Driver, as well as some good setups for Konge. But Enzo,
there we go.
No surprise there, wins the team fight.
Less than 10% damage.
Didn't matter. Renata Glaska Industries stonks rising. Really good play from Enzo. And you know what?
Yes.
I think we can officially put to rest the off-roll argument, because Enzo has been a support for a while. He is definitely the support that carried his team to victory today.
Yeah, definitely getting accustomed to the role and definitely showing up that he can definitely play things besides just that Nautilus, which was pretty much what he was trapped in last split, which you could say a lot of supports were stuck in that.
I think Enchanter Bed is feeling pretty good for Enzo. I mean, there's a lot to like on that J-Team bot side, so we'll see how it all goes. Lil V certainly no slouch either.
Yeah. And Lil V, if you pick the Kalista into him, as we saw from playoffs, he'll just lock in the Philius every single time.
All right, well, we had a shocker to close that game out, but right after this break, don't go anywhere. We'll be back with one more on the day. Meta Falcon team taking on Deep Cross.